The movie starts with a big ship sailing on the ocean. It's pouring rain, and because of that, the crew decides to throw some of the ship's stuff overboard. Among the things they toss away is a statue that looks like a girl. The story then shifts to downtown Beijing. One morning, a girl named Xia Yi is approached by a postman who works at the future post office. This postman gives her a package that's full of mystery. When Xia Yi opens the package, she finds a cassette tape and a letter from the future post office. Curious, she decides to go to the post office to figure out if the package was meant for her or someone else. Meanwhile, a young guy named Kida, who's 27 years old, is packing his stuff, including a cassette player, into his bag. He's getting ready to go back to his hometown, a city called Qingdao, by taking a train. At the same time, Xia Yi is also headed to the post office in Qingdao. While she's on her way, she decides to play the cassette and listen using headphones. On the tape, she hears the voice of a teenage boy. It turns out to be Kida when he was 17. The tape tells a story about Kida's life when he was in high school. The story goes back in time to 1997. On that day, young Xia Yi and her friends are getting ready for swimming. Not far behind them are Kida and his friend Xu Lang. They're secretly watching Xia Yi and her friends. In a conversation between Kida and Xu Lang, it becomes clear that Kida really has a crush on Xia Yi. The next morning, Kida hopped on his bicycle and pedaled down the streets near the harbor. By chance, he bumped into young Xia Yi and her pals who were out jogging. As Kida was busy staring at Xia Yi, a fishing hook from a fisherman's line got tangled in the zipper of his pants. This unexpected mishap made Xia Yi burst into laughter, while Kida felt embarrassed and quickly rode his bicycle away from there. Later in class, Kida and Xu Lang got into a scuffle, and rather than stopping them, the rest of the class cheered them on. Young Xia Yi tried to intervene and break it up, but the fight carried on until a male teacher named Mr. Liu stepped in and put a stop to it. Afterward, Kida and Xu Lang were taken to the teacher's office for their actions. Xu Lang explained that he was defending himself and Kida had started the fight, so Mr. Liu decided to punish Kida by making him stand in the middle of the field during the lesson. Xia Yi watched Kida from the classroom window as he did his punishment. The weather was scorching that day, and Kida got really thirsty and eventually passed out from the heat. Xia Yi saw this and looked concerned. Kida woke up later, realizing it was getting dark, so he decided to head home. Just as he was about to grab his bike from the parking lot, Xia Yi came over to check on him. Mr. Liu had asked her to wake Kida up earlier, but she intentionally waited so as not to disturb him. They both rode their bicycles home together that night. Kida wanted to show his appreciation for Xia Yi waiting, so he walked her to her house. When Kida got home, he pitched in to help his mom with their home restaurant. Upon seeing the bruises on his face, his mother scolded him, assuming he had been in a fight at school. The next day, the school announced that they'd be closed for a few days because of the super hot weather. While Kida was chilling under a tree near the pool, his buddies decided to play a trick on him. They tossed Kida into the pool, and he freaked out since he couldn't swim. Seeing him struggle, young Xia Yi rushed to help him. After he woke up, he was surprised to see Xia Yi's face right there. He quickly got up. Xia Yi noticed he had water in his ears and showed him a trick to get it out by jumping and tilting his head. She joked that she didn't expect a tough-looking guy like Kida to not know how to swim. After a bit, Kida realized his clothes were soaked and left in a hurry. He accidentally left his book by the pool, so Xia Yi picked it up. She smiled while reading a few pages. After the break, everyone came back to school to get their exam results. Mr. Liu handed out the papers and read out the scores. He noticed that Xu Lang wasn't there that day and asked Xia Yi and Kida to pass on Xu Lang's results to his parents and tell them to contact him. After school, Xia Yi and Kida rode their bikes to Xu Lang's house. On the way, Xia Yi returned the book to Kida and praised his writing. She suggested he send his writing to a radio show called The Fated Night, where winners got a cassette player. At first, Kida wasn't keen because he already had one, but Xia Yi convinced him, asking for the prize if he won. When they got to Xu Lang's house, his parents were angry because he skipped school and hung out with a troublemaker. His mom was annoyed about the fight he'd been in before. To avoid making things worse, Xia Yi hid Xu Lang's low grades. After passing on the message from Mr. Liu, they went home. On the way, Xu Lang's younger brother told them where he might be. Kida and Xia Yi went to the spot his brother mentioned. When they reached the club's entrance, they found Xu Lang being thrown out by a group of guys. Those men chased after Xu Lang and started beating him up. Kida saw this and jumped in to help, but he ended up getting beaten too. Young Sia panicked and ran to the locals nearby for help. To cut a long story short, they managed to escape from there and ran to the harbor. Over there, Lang apologized to Kida for making fun of Kida's mom earlier. They had a bit of a fight, but then Lang went to buy drinks. In the meantime, young Sia used her handkerchief to wipe the blood off Kida's nose. Kida kept that handkerchief in his pocket. Sia then talked to Lang about going back to school. Lang agreed, but he had a condition. Sia needed to help him fake his mom's signature on his test results. From then on, their friendship got stronger. On the next evening, both Kida and Sia listened to the Fated Night radio show from their homes. At first, Sia was happy because Kida's story, which was about her, got selected for the broadcast. But her mood changed when she heard that the girl in the story died of blood cancer. She became sad and disappointed. The next morning, Kida waited on the way to school to give Sia the cassette player he won. But Sia didn't pay him any attention and walked past him. Slowly, Kida realized he had made a mistake and hurt Sia's feelings. In school, he punished himself by standing in the field during class, even when heavy rain started falling. Seeing him out there, Sia got worried and went to him, giving him a voice recorder and asking him to stop. Later, Kida listened to the recording. On it, Sia expressed her anger that Kida won with a fake story and criticized him for not thinking about people suffering from cancer. The next day, Kida gave young Sia a tape with his apology recorded on it. After that, their relationship became even closer. They seemed to like each other, but neither of them had confessed yet. Now, we see the grown-up Kida in the city of Qingdao, reminiscing about his past with Sia. The scene shifts back to the past. On that day, Kida took swimming lessons with an old man named Lai Fusheng. This man was not only a swimming instructor but also owned a special post office called the Future Post Office. He built it to help people send things to their loved ones in the future. Lai Fusheng explained that there's a way to connect with the people we love, even if they're no longer with us. He called this connection the center of the world. One evening, Lai Fusheng invited young Kida and Sia to a cemetery to visit the grave of a woman named Mai Xin. But the reason for calling it the center of the world was unclear to them. The next day, during a geography lesson, Kida thought that Uluru, the massive sandstone, was what Lai Fusheng meant. However, young Sia believed the center of the world was the peak of the Himalayas. Another day, Kida and Lai Fusheng practiced swimming and talked. In their conversation, Lai Fusheng revealed that their swimming coach, Miss Sunum, was actually his first love, Mai Xin's daughter. He explained that in 1967, he fell in love with Mai Xin, and they spent a lot of time together. They loved each other deeply. When Lai Fusheng had to leave for military service, they wrote letters to each other. But in Mai Xin's last letter, she said she had to marry a man her parents had chosen for her. On that particular day when Lai Fusheng and Mai Xin had their last meeting to say goodbye, a tragic accident occurred and Mai Xin passed away suddenly. This left Lai Fusheng deeply saddened, unable to let go of his feelings for her. When Lai Fusheng eventually passed away himself, he intended to pass on his future post office to Miss Sun, Mai Xin's daughter. Now the scene shifts to when Miss Sun becomes the owner of the future post office after inheriting it. One day, a grown-up Sia visits the future post office, inquiring about a mysterious package sent from there. Meanwhile, the adult Kida strolls by the harbor while listening to a recording of young Xia's voice. He recalls a memory from when he and Xia visited the harbor lighthouse on her 17th birthday. Back then, she would come to the lighthouse, hoping to see her father. Xia reveals that her father once made a statue resembling her, but he had to toss it into the sea during a storm that endangered his ship. When Xia was 14, her parents divorced. She always wished her father would come on her birthday, but he never did. The day after her birthday, Kida planned to help Xia meet her father in Beijing. He got his classmates involved, pretending they were going on a study tour to Beijing. After arriving in the city, they visited her father, only for Xia to discover he had a new family and a daughter. She decided not to meet him and felt very sad. Trying to lift her spirits, Kida took her to an empty villa to watch a beautiful sunset. This made Yi smile again. That night, Kida and Yi talked about the statue at the bottom of the sea. Now, back to the present, the adult Kida encounters Xu Lang, who is doing a beach photo shoot. Kida tells Xu Lang about his plan to search for Yi's statue at the sea bottom. In another place, grown-up Yi was talking to Miss Sun about the voice recording she had received. Miss Sun asked her if she had been admitted to Boshing Hospital in Qingdao in 1998, and Yi confirmed it. Now the scene shifts to the past when Kida and young Yi were in Beijing. They were at a phone booth, and Yi was calling her father. During the call, she suddenly had a nosebleed and passed out. Kida rushed her to the hospital. He knew Yi had dealt with anemia due to her mother, but he didn't realize her condition was getting worse. The next day, Kida was really worried about Yi while he was in class. He decided to go to the hospital to check on her. When he got there, he found out she was in the advanced stages of blood cancer. Feeling guilty, he blamed himself because he had written a story about Yi having cancer, which turned out to be true. Yi's father finally visited her in the hospital. He was sorry for not seeing her since he divorced her mother. The following day, Yi showed a room to another girl who had the same name and illness. This indicated that the adult Yi, who was talking to Miss Sun, was actually the 10-year-old Yi that young Yi had met before. It meant the adult Yi and the young Yi were two separate individuals. Miss Sun then explained that the tape was sent to the adult Yi on purpose by the young Yi. The reason for sending the tape would be revealed in the final recording. Let's go back to when young Yi's father received the news that neither his nor Kida's bone marrow matched young Yi's. Her condition was getting worse every day. That night, when Kida visited her, she asked for his help to take her to the sea to see the statue at the ocean's bottom. Kida agreed because he wanted to make her happy. That night, he comforted her, calming her fears about not recovering. The next day, they set out to sea to fulfill Yi's last wish. She leaned on Kida, mentioning she didn't have much time left. This made Kida tear up, though he tried to stay strong. He held her and reassured her that they had plenty of time ahead. She grew tired and soon fell asleep on his shoulder. Around the same time, Yi's father was on another ship coming to get her. Sadly, by the time he reached Kida's ship, Yi had passed away. After she was gone, Kida received a sound recording cassette she had prepared earlier. She had left it at Lai Fusheng's post office, meant for Kida 10 years later when he turned 27. Now, we're back to the present, where adult Yi is listening to the final recording from young Yi. Through this tape, she learns that the young Yi had donated her eyes to little Yi, who lost her sight after surgery. It becomes clear to the adult Yi that the young Yi is no longer in this world. Somewhere else, adult Kida continues with his plan to locate the statue of Yi that was once thrown to the sea bottom. While diving down, Kida suddenly got caught in a strong ocean current, which tossed him quite a distance away. Surprisingly, despite this incident, Kida managed to find the statue of Yi at the ocean floor. He approached it and even gave it a kiss, but due to his oxygen running out, he passed out and started losing consciousness. During this unconscious state, Kida had a moment where he met young Yi. She asked him to wait a bit longer and return to his life. When he regained consciousness, he smiled and felt relieved because he had located the statue of young Yi. He had proven Li Fusheng's words about the center of the world that could connect us with our loved ones. By the harbor, an adult Yi watched Kida from a distance. The eyes of the young Yi have now reconnected with Kida, witnessing his happiness once again. So the moral of the story is don't toss statues into the sea during storms, or you might end up needing to kiss them underwater years later to reconnect with lost love.